Hello, you are listening to the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. Your host, Erica Saccoccio, invites you to join her community of passionate and inspiring leaders in the ECE field, where she discusses, reflects, and shares the best ways to invest in our children, families, teachers, and community. Because after all, we know they are the heartbeat of any successful program.
Hey guys, Erica Saccoccio here with the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. I am so freaking excited you are here today. Now, why am I so excited, you might ask? Because I just got a question through our fan mail. Yep, fan mail, my friends. And this question is from a director in LaGrange, Illinois. And she asked, how do you deal with stubborn staff that is set in their old ways? Never having a leader, and I am a first-year director. Now, wow, does this question bring me back? So I can remember when I first started, I was probably somewhere around 28 years old, going into an already existing center with staff that already worked there long before I was even in the field of early childhood education. At that time, it was an after-school program, and I was younger than most of the folks. Now, this question doesn't say age, but being a first-time director, I'm going to think maybe at the beginning or early parts of her career, or his career. Doesn't say, actually. So I have so much things to say. And those of you who have been in the child care director seat for a while, I bet you probably have lots of advice for this listener as well. So change is hard for people. So let's start with that, right? Change is hard. You are probably very, very excited about your new position, but maybe they're not quite as excited, or maybe aren't sure what to expect from you. Change is hard. Just remember, change is hard. So let's talk about the first thing. How do you even manage these stubborn staff? Well, let's start with building trust, because just because you have been awarded the title of child care director does not mean everybody is going to follow your lead. So you got to start with trust, because I know I'm not following anybody I don't trust or respect or know what their intentions are. So let's start with that. Start by having individual meetings with your team members. These conversations should be focused on listening rather than leading. And I know that's hard because you have a lot that you want to say, because you are excited about your new role, which, by the way, congratulations. Everybody is usually excited when they first get that position. The key to being really good at it is staying excited, but that's another episode. But you want to understand their concerns and demonstrate that their input is valued. Do not just walk over them and talk over them and disregard their concerns. How maybe insignificant they may feel to you, they're important to them. That's why they're bringing them up as concerns. You want to also make sure that you communicate clearly the why. Why is clearly and frequently explained. Explain the reasons behind the changes that you're trying to implement. When staff understand the rationale and the benefits of new approaches, they're much more likely to buy in. And I know you may feel like, well, I shouldn't have to explain why. And maybe perhaps that's true. And maybe there are some folks listening to today's episode that don't agree with my thinking of explaining. But I just like to be respectful and share information. And I think that even when questions are asked for me, when I have to make decisions, I usually ask for a little bit more information before I can decide what I want to do with that information. So explaining why clearly and frequently. And implement the changes gradually. Don't go in and overhaul everything at once. Even if there are a lot of things that need to be overhauled, roll out the changes in phases. This will give your staff time to adjust and provide feedback and be able to take that incremental approach easy and there will be less resistance. Now, I know some of my staff are probably chuckling because this was a skill I had to get better at. I am a take on the world kind of girl, if you haven't already figured that out. If you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, you already know. But implementing the changes gradually will really help your staff be able to take a breath as each new policy or new change is implemented. And you want to make sure that you're offering them training and support, because a lot of times the change and the pushback is because they're afraid they won't know what it is you want them to do. So a perfect example would be, we brought on a family app a few years ago, and some of the staff were like, I'm not really computer savvy. I have some school age folks who, really were just like, oh, well, we didn't have to use that before. Why do we have to use that now? I don't understand. And I had to say, in 2024, parents and technology go together. And so this was something that was really a hard change for my team. And it took them a while to get used to putting information in the app. It took them a while to get used to taking pictures. It was the same thing when we added cameras to our facility. Oh my gosh, that was probably like 10 or 11 years ago. But, that took people a little bit of time to get used to just being under surveillance all the time. Now everybody's used to it. But again, that was something that took them a little bit of time. And at first, immediately their pushback was like, oh, it's Big Brother watching and you don't trust us. That's why you're watching us on camera. And I'm like, listen, guys, at the end of the day, this is protection for you and for the center and for the families. And now my staff love it. And I've shared this on multiple episodes, but now they love the cameras, because when something happens that they don't see, they're able to say, hey, go pull up the camera. Or, somebody says, Johnny hit Susie, but Johnny didn't hit Susie. You're able to then provide proof that Johnny, in fact, did not hit Susie. So, make sure that you're offering your team the support and resources that they need to adapt to any new methods. Support them through that transition to make them feel more comfortable with the changes. I feel like we went through that as well when we were going through Bright Stars, our quality rating system, and they had to get used to me coming in the room and doing observations and doing classroom echoes and itters ratings. They were not used to somebody always being in their room with the clipboard and moving things around and adding supplies and taking away supplies on the shelves because they either didn't fit with what was supposed to go there, they weren't age appropriate, checking things through the choking gauges, and just all those things. But teachers get very territorial about their classrooms, and they hate when you go in and mess with stuff. So there's that. So be aware of that. Help them be part of what needs to happen. I'm not saying to not make the changes. If there's something that's a health and safety thing, or is contingent on money, then go ahead and move that to the priority changes. And when they do go ahead and either make that attempt or successfully achieve what it is you're asking them to do in the change, don't forget to recognize, acknowledge, and celebrate those who embrace the changes right away. And public recognition, small rewards can really motivate others to follow the lead and create a more positive atmosphere along the way. So that is one way. So, thinking about how are you going to manage the stubborn staff. The other thing I would say is try to understand from the staff perspectives. So maybe host a listening session, hold regular meetings where staff can voice their concerns, their suggestions, and create a welcoming environment where they are heard and felt valued, and know that you care, all right? Because again, a title doesn't make a leader makes a leader. Show empathy and validate their concerns. Although they may not seem like important to you, if it's important to them that they took the time to share it with you, acknowledge that and understand the challenges that your staff are facing. Show empathy and reassure them that you're here to support them through the transition and really be there to support them. And understand maybe it's not a all or nothing. Maybe there's some compromise in the middle of where that change needs to go. Also, I think you need to take the time to really understand their background, their experiences, learn about their work history. Knowing their history can really help you address any resistance more effectively. Because again, you're going to have folks, if your center is anything like mine, you're going to have folks that have been at a center a long time. They're used to the status quo. It's worked really good for 25 years. Why do you want to go shake things up? And that's fair. That's a fair question. So make sure that you're making changes that make sense. What are you basing the changes on? Is it based on data? Is it based on new regulations? Is it based on a quality rating? Is it based on an observation? What is it based on? Why do they need to make the change? Because maybe some things that they have implemented that are successful and have been successful don't need to change. And ask for, honest feedback. So, make it so that they can respond without having to tell their name. That way they can be honestly candid about how they feel about the changes. And then, also don't only ask them what they disagree about the changes. Be sure to ask them what they like about the changes, because then that gives you something to build off. And act on that feedback. When you receive feedback, show that you're responsive to that feedback by making real changes based on your team's suggestions. That will build trust and it will demonstrate that their opinions matter. So I would say, understanding where they're coming from. The other thing is discovering your own leadership style. If you are a new director, you are going to be faced with challenges that you never were faced with before. So, and you may not even thought about what kind of leader you want to be. So reflect on your leadership values. Identify your core values that drive your leadership style. Whether you lean towards collaboration or decisiveness, knowing your values will help you lead more authentically. I am very much I would say, service leadership or servant leadership style, where I feel my role is to take care of my people. There are others that have a different style, and that's okay. So understand what your leadership style is. Lean into that. Also understand you're going to be working with lots of different personalities. You don't have to go have tea after work with everybody, although that sometimes is nice. But at the end of the day, you're there to get the job done as safely, as efficiently, in the best work culture and climate that you can create. Seek feedback about your leadership approach. Ask for feedback from your peers. Do you have a mentor? Hang out with other leaders and ask them to share insights. And this will help you refine your approach as you grow as a leader. You can be really, really strong, and you can have a really, really strong personality that could come across a certain way if you are working with somebody who is more timid, more non-confrontational. So, think about how you roll things out too. Because sometimes the pushback is not even necessarily about the action that you need them to take, but it could be about your delivery. So think about that and make sure that that is in line with what you want to be presenting as your form of leadership style. And you have to definitely set clear goals and boundaries. Define specific measurable goals for your leadership and establish boundaries. This will help you make sure that you maintain respect while also being approachable. And I would say too, the other thing is, before you make the changes, I think you need to communicate what your vision is for the center for the next couple years. What your goals are. So share that vision for the center, how you plan to achieve it, and make sure your staff understands how their role contributes to these goals and the overall mission of your program. Of course, you need to be consistent and fair. This is something that new directors are challenged with because you may have some folks that are like, yeah, sure, whatever you want, boss. And then you might have others that are like, nope, not doing that. I don't care what you say. And it sounds like maybe you're encountering some of that at your program. So just make sure that you apply rules and policies consistently to build credibility and trust, and that happens really fast. Fairness in your decision making and your interactions is key to maintaining a positive work environment. So you cannot, here's an example, I see it all the time. You cannot write up somebody for not wearing a uniform, and then the next day, your favorite teacher, friend, work bestie comes in not wearing a uniform and they don't get written up. Or even worse, you're not wearing a uniform if that's your role, and but you write someone else up for not wearing theirs. So again, be consistent, be fair, make sure that the rules and policies are consistent throughout your program. I would also say you really want to make sure that you explain why the changes matter and what's in it for them. Highlight the benefits for the staff. Clearly communicate how the changes will make their work either easier, more rewarding. Show them how the new methods will benefit them directly. Because I'm sorry, people are people and they want to know what's in it for them besides more work. So if you're able to do that, a lot of times you'll start to get the needle to move. Link changes to career growth. Explain how adapting new processes can contribute to their professional development and career advancement. And offer opportunities for growth within the new framework. So maybe it's you have a new way to do onboarding, and new staff are going to get this new training system that you designed. I'm making this up, but just to give you an example. And so now maybe you select that are really good at what they do and share that with your new folks and let them be the people that take on training. And maybe share some success stories too. Maybe use some examples from other centers or organizations that have successfully implemented similar changes. And this can help the staff really visualize the potential for positive outcomes. And then, of course, always provide ongoing support. Ensure that you're available to assist your staff during the transitions. Make sure that you're putting on your calendar regular check-ins. Providing continuous support helps ease the process, and it demonstrates your commitment to their success. As always, I love a good party. Maybe you put some goals that they work on together and can work on as a team. Maybe it's something that's visual where you can color it in as you hit each of the benchmarks. And then once you hit the major goal of whatever this new change is, you have some type of a celebration. So those are some things I really think can help you. And lastly, sometimes people are not going to budge. And if they don't budge, you might have to think about what does that mean? And where does that person fit within the culture? If it's really disruptive and it's really going against your vision and goals and the mission of the program and what your leadership is expecting you to achieve in your position as a new director, because we want you to be successful, you may have to make difficult decisions too at the end of the day. But I would say I wouldn't do that until you try all of the other methods, understanding where they're coming from, trying to show them how the changes benefit them, benefit the center, benefit the children. I think those will be some things that can really help you get things moving along. And, just stick with it. Eventually, small changes become bigger changes, which become bigger changes, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. And I'm super excited for you in your new director position. I'm going to tell you, don't beat yourself up, because guess what? the job is hard. It's hard for those of us who've been doing it for 25 years, and it's hard for those who are just coming into the field. So we are super excited for you. Thank you so much for texting the show. And those of you who are listening, send me your challenges. I'll give you the best of what I got. And we can talk about it in the comments below as well. And let me know how it works out. I'd love to hear back from you. Let me know if what tips you used and how did they go. You could even let me know what you tried and what bombed. But yeah, let's talk about it. And anybody else who's a director, been a director a long time and have had to face that pushback from some staff, write in the comments below too, because this is our podcast. It's for all of us. So thank you for tuning in to the Child Care Director's Chair. This is your host, Erica Saccoccio, signing off. And remember, it is the little details that make a big impact in the success of your child care business. Have a great day.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode of the Child Care Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Child Care Director's Chair.